Hi, everyone, and welcome to Let's Get Visible, a podcast for small business owners, helping them to grow, have a sustainable business, and get more visibility online. I'm Dawes Brown, and I'll be bringing you SEO and digital marketing tips, as well as interviews and conversations with other small business owners. So, let's get started. So today I'm joined by Sophia. She's a woman's hormone and empowerment coach and helps women to improve their lives and businesses by optimizing their menstrual cycle. But what she's really passionate about is supporting women to step into their power and glow within. In today's modern society, Sophia recognised the need for a new paradigm for women entrepreneurs, leaders, and world changers to embrace their full feminine flow rather than constant burnout hustle. Through her 3-step signature technique, she empowers women to biohack their menstrual cycle and sync their work and life schedule with their hormones so they can harness the energy, productivity, and power. So let's welcome to the Let's Get Visible podcast, Sophia. Yay! Hi,
Thanks
Sophia.
for having me.
You're very welcome. I am excited about catching up with you today. Now, we recently connected through our weekly cuddles that eventuated as a result of, I guess, COVID-19 and being in isolation and not being able to have those in-person catch-ups. And it's been a really awesome and lovely way to connect together with you and as a group and to learn more about, what it is that you do and how it is that you support, the people that you work with as well. So what we're going to do is run through a couple of questions about your business and the way in which you do support, women in business and how you help with that, and then a few other bits and pieces in between. But the first question that I really, really want to ask you is why you decided to launch. And I did touch on this a little bit in your bio, but if you can expand a little bit more, on the background of your business and why you chose to launch.
Yes, I think with and it's so very common, it's through my own journey, and my story, my why is just so powerful, and that's what I remind myself every day of. So I am originally from London in the UK, as you might
No, I couldn't tell. I love your accent. It's absolutely beautiful. Yep.
Oh, I hate it.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so I was originally working in communications. I had a very successful job. I was working for a magazine company.
Cool.
I thought I had my life, I had it all. So I was going to these breakfast launches. I was going to lunch meetings. I was out at launches in the nighttime. I was literally living a life on like champagne, just a very, very busy life. And I thought, so it got to the point actually that I remember thinking to myself, if I'm not busy, I'm actually a failure in life.
Wow. Okay.
And if I'd say some days, but so this was all going on, and yet even though I had a very successful life as well, if I came home and I did have a day off, I couldn't help but feel very dissatisfied with my life. And I was constantly Googling digital nomad jobs anywhere internationally that I could just get away. And I thought this was me wanting this freedom. So being the very free-spirited that I am and being satisfied, one day I was like, nope, I've always wanted to go to Central and South America, so I'm just going to do it. I'm going to book a year out, I'm going to do it, and at the end I'm going to end up in Australia.
Yeah.
So I took myself off, solo traveling, and to the much dismay of my parents, they were like, oh my gosh, it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
But it was actually got to the point where, so again, I forgot to mention this, but during this time of feeling dissatisfied in my life, I was also diagnosed with a hormone imbalance called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is very common. It affects 1 in 5 women, but essentially what you're just told by the doctors is to go on the pill. And, think about your fertility when you want to have a baby. So this was always in the back of my mind. But so when I went traveling, I went I thought this was my time, and I'm going to be full of freedom. This is exactly what I wanted.
Yep.
I was out partying every night to the point that I missed a period for a whole 9 months, and I felt really low on energy. I felt burnt out. I know everyone thinks that traveling's so easy, and it's actually really tiring. You're constantly moving.
Yeah.
So I recognised that I need to take myself somewhere just to relax. So I decided to volunteer in a magical Ecuadorian village. And this, I was working in the organic cafe, and I was practicing yoga and doing surfing. And actually, it was upon my first yoga class that I got my period back.
Wow.
It was so in sync. It was crazy. And that's when I realized the power of, just slowing down and really connecting back to the body and listening to what it needed. And so then I decided to get very into self-development and, recognize that actually taking a holistic approach will actually heal my hormones. So when I moved to Australia, I signed up to become a health and nutritionist coach at one of the largest nutritionist schools. And since then, I just really dived deep, but I realized how many other women was, it was not just affecting their hormones and their periods, but also their confidence. So yeah, just became
there you go. There's so much new bits in there that I had no idea, because yes, you have obviously come from as you said, from London, and you've traveled around, and then we're lucky enough to now have you on our shores here. But yeah, just hearing you explain that experience. And one thing that I quickly scribbled down was that if I'm not busy, I feel like a failure. I'm a failure. And I'm sitting here nodding because I'm quite similar in that way, in that if I stop and I don't have something scheduled to do, I feel really lost. And I've noticed that I don't know how to stop and do it and be okay with it. Like, I'm constantly having to do things to feel like I'm not a failure, to feel like, I actually don't know what to do with myself when I do have nothing to do, which is, never. But yeah, just completely stopping is a foreign concept. And I love that you shared that, because I think so many of us, whether you're, female or male, we're kind of on this small business, roller coaster or life roller coaster where we're constantly on the go, go, go. And it does have an impact on your physical, mental health, but you don't realize until, as you said, you started to reconnect, with yourself. And in that moment, instantly your body went, yeah, hello, I'm here. Like, you finally have taken the moment, to slow down and do that. So
yeah, and I think that's the thing as well. I think we're taught nowadays, especially now that we're in such that hustle mode, that masculine energy, and that's one of the things I teach with my clients, the pillars, and what that's embracing our feminine energy is one of the key pillars, because we're constantly on the go and we feel like if we're busy, that equals productivity. But what I realized during the healing journey, that actually it doesn't, because throughout our cycle, which I describe as our inner seasons, we go through all these different energy shifts. And instead of thinking, okay, we need to always be on the go, we can actually use it as a superpower to realize, okay, what can I be doing? If my energy levels are lower, what can I be doing that's going to be serving my business, but also the other aspects of our life? And so, for example, I use this great analogy. You wouldn't expect a rose to bloom during winter, and that's exactly the same with us. We can't expect to be always on the go, because what we're going to find that if we are, our energies are going to come depleted, become burnt out, and all that's going to happen is that we're not consciously surrendering, and instead we're going to get these chronic illnesses such as period pain or stress, fatigue and adrenal fatigue. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that we consciously carve this time out and don't feel like that we're a failure. For example, again, during our inner winter, which is, when I say, for example, when we're on our period and the days leading up, what we could be doing is reflecting and seeing what went well for our business and in our life the last month, and how can we use it for our next cycle.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I love this insight. And I have to say that I've never looked at it from this perspective before. And you've already, in the only less than 10 minutes, I'm just sitting here having these little brain explosion moments, because I'll have to share with you, I'm totally feeling worn out and burnt out and just tired. And we don't do our best work when we are in that state. We really need to be relaxed so we can reconnect. And then it's in those moments that the goodness starts to happen, and we get these great ideas about either our business or in our personal lives. And so understanding the seasons, you've really got me thinking now. I'm sitting here going, yeah, this is definitely something I, personally want to tap into. And I can see just from what you've explained, the difference and the impact it'll have on my overall life, not just, from a business perspective. So with launching your business, how long ago did you do that? So how long have you been running, this arm of the work that you do? I know you do a couple of different things, but specifically with that.
Oh, what a question. I would say originally, it must have been about 2 or 3 years ago, but it's not until I'd say it's the last couple of years that I've really had to step into exactly what I'm teaching, step into my power, because one of the key things that I had to really overcome was my mindset and imposter syndrome, and even the taboo periods and hormones being such a taboo topic. And I really had to overcome that and just been like, no, I know that what I'm doing is actually going to help. Even if I help one person, that's going to make a huge difference. Because when I first started, I had people saying, have you joined a cult? I had people I even had people going to my mother saying, why is she talking about periods? And they thought it was absolutely cuckoo and crazy. But that's what I'm trying to do. We need to talk about it, because we've been educated not to talk about it.
Yes, we have.
Even from our school education, we'd be sneaking tampons up our arms, would be
sleeves,
it'd be absolutely crazy. And so by people telling me not to talk about it, I'm like, no, this is exactly why we need to talk about it, because there are so many women suffering. And I don't just mean with your period pain, but the emotional impact it has on you is crazy. And it really is so important that we recognize the impact it has on our overall lives, because it's, we need to give ourselves permissions. We as women have to go through so much, and it's beautiful how much we actually can handle. And once we're able to tap into that, then we can vastly improve our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, again, so many bits and pieces. So here you've mentioned about imposter syndrome. And that's a really key thing. I think that when lots of people decide to launch their own business, whether they're a solopreneur or, they've got a team, I think at some point we all go through that kind of imposter syndrome time. And can you share, I guess, some of the ways in which you were able to work through that? Because those who are listening might be exactly in that, part of their journey at the moment. And just to let them know that, hey, we hear you. We definitely have experienced that as well.
I would 100% is investing in mentors and accountability partners. I can't explain how much, and this is something I will always invest money in. Even now, I still have mentors, because they're going to hold you accountable. And so often, especially me, I'm such an indecisive person. So in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, okay, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? That person's doing that. They're doing so well. And actually, one of my mentors, when I first started out, he gave me the best piece of advice. And he said, every time you feel fear, take action. And that's something I remind myself still of, because too often when we feel fear, we're going to be like, no, I'm not doing it. And what's going to end up is that months down the line, you're still not taking any action. And even if we fail, we have to really look at it. It's not a failure, it's a learning point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that. Every time you feel fear, take action. And I think that's going to be the gold nugget out of this, podcast today, because we do compare. we do look at what everyone else is doing. And I think sometimes we forget about our own magic, and there can be, 1,001 different people doing, something similar. I know that digital marketing and SEO is most definitely a saturated market. Every second person is, doing digital marketing these days or something related to that. But if you sat there and you just compared yourself to what they're doing, what that does is it kind of feels like you're dimming your own light, and sometimes you're taking a path that isn't even related to you, and so what you're sharing becomes a little bit inauthentic because you're just trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. So absolutely love that. I love that you've mentioned about having mentors. Yes, I'm putting my hand up and saying yes, they are so important. And accountability partners, so people actually holding you accountable for what you're doing and giving you that little kick up the bum when you're feeling a little bit crap or a little bit flat, or you're, in that imposter syndrome, moment, that there's someone to go, hang on a minute, let's peel this back a little bit and let's have a look at the wins that you've had, whether they're large, whether they're small, they're still contributing to you moving forward. But I think once you're, just stuck in fear, and if you don't take action, it's really just holding you back from what it is that you're meant to be doing, whether that's,
And it's definitely the energy you bring as well, because, for example, when I was back in my corporate job working, whenever I'd go to interviews, I got to the point that I was so bullshit. I would go up and I was thinking, in my head, I'd be thinking, okay, they're interviewing me as much as I'm being interviewed. I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. So I used to be so confident, and I swear I never got turned down for a job. So at the very start, when I was trying to do all this stuff with my own business, I was so unconfident that people could feel that energy.
Yes.
That's why I wasn't getting anywhere. So in my mind, I had to be like, okay, I need to bring the energy that I would think of when I was back in my, in my corporate jobs, because people do pick up on that 100%.
They do.
If you feel like even 1% feel like you're not good enough, and they're not going to, for example, sign that agreement or contract with you, they will feel that.
Absolutely.
So doing affirmations, again, morning rituals sets you up for the day. Doing your affirmations, remembering your why, telling yourself your story of why you're doing this, will help you get in that energy, so that you don't feed into the energy of other people and comparing yourself about how well other people are doing, because you think, no, I've got this.
Yeah, absolutely. And one way, I used to do affirmations at one point, and then I found, I guess, my own way of getting myself geared up for the day. And that's usually putting on a favorite song. And as you know, having a bit of a boogie, I like to boogie, and you like to boogie too. We're totally boogieing the next time we catch up in person. But I think everyone's got something that helps to motivate themselves. And particularly when you are running your own business, there isn't necessarily someone there every single day, telling you need to wake up, you need to have your breakfast, you need to have, a glass of juice, you need to be doing all of these things. So I think it's important to find what works for you. And most definitely, like the power of affirmations, yes. And if that's something that works for you, that's brilliant. I know for me, music does that for me. So music gives me, as you said, that energy, and puts me in the right mindset, in the right mood, that if I have a good song playing, I've done my little boogie in the car driving to work, I'm now like, great, now I can actually start the day. So whatever fits, and I think whatever works, for you personally, absolutely, is a great way to kind of kickstart your day.
And that is so important. It is specifically what works for you, because it's not going to be the same from the next person who's running their own business or in their career. And like, for example, take meditation. It doesn't suit everyone. So perhaps you want to do a mindful practice, which is, walking or cycling or anything, or even cooking, actually.
Yeah.
It's so important to, again, tune in, connect with yourself. Feel like what really raises your vibration.
Absolutely. And again, another good thing that you've mentioned there is everyone does have their own thing. I'm certainly not a walker, but I have lots and lots of friends that I know, that they, will get that energy back in their mornings or in their afternoons by going for that walk. And it's a ritual that they have to do. And they feel so different. Even when you speak to them, you can hear that there's a difference when they've not done their daily walk. And it's like, is everything okay? And they're like, oh, actually, I haven't gone for my walk today. And that you might think it's a tiny thing, but it really transforms your entire day, and can turn things from, left to right. So definitely, important. Now, you did mention a little bit about the way in which you do work with your clients, and there are certain areas or pillars, as you mentioned, within that. So could you give us a bit of a top level overview of what your program looks like and how it is that you help and serve the people that you work with?
Yeah, so I offer a various types of services. So, for example, I work one-on-one with people. So I say women specifically.
Yep.
So when I work with them, that's normally, and it's not just a one-off session. In order for us to get real, make sustainable changes that's going to work and implement for them, that's over a 90 days, because again, with our hormones, that's how long it takes, for the egg to be released and to actually change. So that's why 90 days is so important. And generally, that's when as well we're going to be able to take these changes that we've made and made them into lifelong habits.
Great, love that.
But again, so then I also do offer online programs as well, and that's group work. And again, the power, so the difference between one-on-ones is because, it's very tailored to you. But the group work, actually, there's so much healing that can be done with group, especially connecting with other like-minded women who are going through the same journey. And I truly believe that when we heal ourselves, we're also healing other people and Mother Nature. So again, forming part of a collective it's transformational work. And I just run a 4-week program, and even though it's only 4 weeks, there was so much transformation within that group, and it made me so happy. I nearly cried from the women and their feedback, because again, as women, sometimes we feel like we can't be open about how we're feeling and our well-being. And I truly believe our menstrual cycle is a key missing piece to that. So it's so important that we kind of recognize and let ourselves look after ourselves first of all, so that we can fill up the cups of others and even our business.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there a particular, I guess, age group that you need to be in order to be part of, your programs, or how does that impact? Because I guess women are going through different stages, hormonally, as we go through our different ages. So is it, specifically targeted at, I guess, younger women or women in their 30s and 40s?
Yeah, so I would say predominantly younger women, but having said that, I still work with women who are older and gone past their menarche years and actually heading into their menopausal, because again, there's still a lot of well-being that we can do as women, and again, our energy is going to be different. So it's actually tracking that. So it's still powerful work, and it still can be done. So if you're thinking, well, this is so irrelevant to me because I've gone past that, actually you can still track trends of how you're feeling throughout this, I would say, the moon cycles, because again, as human beings, we're very cyclical. So for example, if you're a woman and you don't have a period, I often get them to use the moon cycles to kind of figure out where they are in these inner phases I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the transformations. So when you have worked with women, as you said, in different stages and parts of their lives, what kind of transformations, have you seen as a result of those programs, and what have they been able to implement in their life and in their business that you've seen has really, helped them get hold of things, I guess, and do things,
Yeah. So, I mean, so with my programs, they're 3 months, 90 days, or they're 8 weeks, or the 4 weeks, they vary inside. But what I give them is long lasting results. So it's going to go back they're going to have tools and techniques that go beyond the program.
Yep.
So in a way, I would almost say that the word that they that they take away is hope.
Yeah.
And confidence, because they realize it's, again, most of the times when I start explaining about the inner season or about the different pillars of women's wisdom and their well-being, it's, again, I'm going to use the word permission. They realize how the connection between their hormones and their well-being, and that's when they start thinking, I've never thought about it like that.
No.
And once they realize and give themselves permission to live in sync with their menstrual cycle, it offers so many different opportunities. A lot of women who have, for example, hormone issues or period pain, they're unable to go to work. Some of them have hit rock bottom, that they've had to quit their jobs.
Yeah, it's debilitating. Yeah.
And and I remember recently I heard one woman who, she suffers from endometriosis, and she ran her own business, and she said, I actually don't feel like women should take a day off when they're on their period, even when they're in such immense pain, because it's a sign of weakness against men. And I was horrified, because especially with equality, and I know there's still a lot of stigma and still so much things that, barriers that we need to break down as women. But if we see it as a weakness being on our period, we're going to be experiencing a lot of illnesses. We're not consciously surrendering. There's so much gifts that we can actually tap into as women, rather than thinking it's a burden. And that's what we should be focusing on, rather than thinking, actually, it's ruining my career, I have to take off. Men, I'm not going to get the career opportunities. You can get the career opportunities, but we just have to work in a different way than as men. And again, I see, and this is something I've seen in the corporate world, I see so many women emasculating men because they feel that's the way that they're going to further their career and their business. Men are great. We should actually asking them to support us. And there are so many supportive men out there. A lot of as well, starting my business, when I did this, I thought some men were like, I'm following you. But some of my male friends were like, I love what you're doing. And they have actually been the ones sharing my message more than some of my girlfriends.
Yeah. And so another point that you raised is not necessarily getting the support for your business from your peers or from people that you would have thought, hey, well, hang on, you are a friend, or you are someone that, I would consider to be a friend. How did you cope with, I guess, not getting that support from them? Like, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I think at first I was sometimes a bit hurt by their words, and I fed into that to the point where I think, well, I'm just, I can't do this. It would actually really affect my energy.
Yeah.
But what I realized were actually the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So again, when I invested in my mentoring, what I found is that I created a network of people internationally that I could just connect with on a daily basis, and having like a quick virtual coffee. And I guess that's, because I done that. So when we went into COVID, I was already used to that virtual connection. So I was just like, this is absolutely fine for me. Whereas I know a lot of people had to transition
and adjust. Yep.
Yeah. But I think the beauty is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And if, for example, on your social media feed, there's someone that is not bringing you anything in your life, and you just feel that they're actually bringing you down, feel free to unfollow, hide their posts, because what your gift that you're bringing with your business is going to make so much more of an impact, and that person just doesn't understand. Perhaps their business isn't for them, your business isn't for them, or they're just not in that place. Because again, even with clients or potential clients, you're going to find people who are not at that stage. They kind of need to need to be at a certain point in order for you to help them. If they've hit rock bottom, although you would love to help them and you feel like you may be failing them, sometimes, again, it's with mindset. They need to stop playing the victim, and they actually need to start doing the work themselves. So meet you halfway so that you can really get them and lift them up so that they can reach their full potential.
Love it. Love it. And being with like-minded people, or surrounding yourself with like-minded people, is so important in business, because it also means that you can stay true to your purpose and to what it is that you want to achieve. Whereas when you're surrounded by people who are on a different page, you tend to do things that are not necessarily aligned with your true purpose and your goal. And this is a common thing that's come up in a lot of these small business catch-ups with other business owners, is ensuring you've got a really good bunch of people around you that support you, regardless of whether, as you said, there are males who really support your message and are helping sharing your message. So it doesn't necessarily impact them directly. It's not like they can take up one of your programs, but they see the value in what it is that you're doing. And so gender doesn't really play a part at all. And we are two different, types of beings, being male and female, and having that masculine and feminine energy. And I think recognizing that, as you said, we don't want to emasculate, men either. We want to all be supporting each other and be on the same page, but understand that, yeah, we are different. And this is part of life. This is how we were created and made. And again, whatever it is you believe in that helped us get here. But we are two different types of beings. And I think understanding the way in which we function and operate then helps us to go, okay, I'm going to, as you said, focus on this particular part of my business at this time of the month, because I know I'm going to do my best work during this time and perhaps not at another time. And having that,
completely. Actually, that just reminded me as well. So because I was originally in the corporate world, but when I was able to, because it was making me so unhappy that it actually was affecting my hormones and my stress levels, like so many. So it was actually, about a year ago, I was still, kind of working in the corporate world. I had my business as well, but something happened to me. So my contract at work was about to come to an end. And I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I haven't got much money. Should I be focusing on my business, or should I get another job? So I was coming out of the office and I was about to get on my bike, hadn't quite made it yet, on my little push bike. And just as I was crossing a laneway, I fell over and I sprained my ankle.
Oh, no.
I know. So I was like devastated, because actually that's sprained ankle meant that I couldn't actually walk for 6 weeks. So I actually was I was struggling. I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I can't even get to interviews to try and get a new job. I was ringing my mum back in the UK. I was crying. I was just like, and I think for me as well, being a single independent woman, so far from my family, I'd been so used to doing things on my own that this was the time that I needed to be supported.
Yes.
And I remember, again, I had this networking, mentoring group down in Melbourne. I'm living in Sydney, by the way. So I had to go down to Melbourne, and even trying to get to the airport was difficult. And I had to get my pregnant friend to help me. And I felt awful for her, that I was just like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. You have to push me around in a wheelchair. Again, I was at the actual conference, and one of my mentors, I think I got to the point where I was trying to open the door and I just couldn't. And he was standing right there and he said, Sophia, it's okay to ask for support sometimes. And I thought, you're absolutely right. And I realized that I was so independent, so used to doing stuff, that I hadn't actually been asking for support myself. And I actually really needed that. When you're building your own business, sometimes you forget to set your boundaries. So you're constantly on the go, you're working all sorts of hours. And sometimes you just need to say to someone, can you just please help me? And
yes.
It's perfectly okay. And it's not a sign of it's not a sign of weakness.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I love this. I like this. Yes.
But actually, since I broke my ankle, that's really gave me the push to get my business off ground. I've not returned to corporate world.
There you go. And that was the universe giving you that little push to say, this is the time that I'm giving you. You've made it clear as to what it is that you want. And so now what I'm doing is I'm giving you this opportunity, but you need to take action. You need to take it. It's no good just sitting there, writing it down, putting it on your vision board or whatever, it is. Unless you accompany that with action and actually take that action, it's not going to happen. But again, another really important point you've raised, that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to ask for support. And I think we think sometimes that running your own business is a solo journey. And it really isn't. And it comes up again in so many of these interviews and catch-ups, in that the success of your business is the result of other people helping you get there. There is no such thing as you doing it on your own, being on an island and thinking that other people aren't contributing to your success. It does take a lot of love. It does take a lot of support. It takes that mentorship in order for you to get from, A to B and then move from B to C. It's certainly not a solo thing.
Yeah, definitely. And also you could apply that again with some of the work I do. So I often say to clients, especially if they're running their own business, during your menstrual, when you're on your period or when you have your lower energy, you're going to be needing support. So if you've got a partner or a friend, ask them maybe to cook the meals or, pick up the kids. Or if you are on your own, perhaps when you're in your ovulation, so day 14 of your cycle, cook some extra meals that you can put in the freezer, so that when you are working, having to work and do your business stuff, that you can just, quickly put something, in the oven and voila. So you don't feel that you're all alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And just being able to recognize those times and moments and understanding that they're there and how to work with them. I think what a lot of us do is we work against them and we just keep trying to push and push and push through. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but I've still got a massive to-do list. And yes, I'm day, 14 or I'm day 30, but I've still got this to-do list that I've got to do. And I've got to do it on my own because I am that, strong woman who can take it all on. But what ends up happening is that we get burnt out. We feel like we're going to collapse. We feel like we just can't do or take any more. And so the energy and time and effort that we're putting into things that we're doing, things usually take twice as long to achieve. So something that would only take you an hour or two, because you're so exhausted and there's no more fuel in the tank, that thing is now taking you an entire day to accomplish. And you're sitting there tapping your head going, why? Why did this one thing that I can usually do in an hour or two, why has this taken me an entire day to complete? But it is looking at our energy reserves. It's looking at, the times throughout the month where we're going to have, more energy, less energy, all those types of things. So once I think you recognize it, then you can work with it rather than working against it.
Yeah, and perhaps you decide to do, other tasks that you're going to be able to do, for example, as I said, reflecting, setting some new goals for the next cycle. Or, for example, what you might want to do in that week, you could even outsource it to a VA, because if it's going to be giving you more stress and taking more your time, it's probably more profitable for you to actually outsource it, because your time is, if you think, you have to think about it, if you're in your business, what is your time worth every hour? If you're spending more time on something that you could actually be doing something else that's going to be making you more money, then why not? You're not actually losing money if you're going to outsource it to a VA. You're actually making money because you can use your time to do something else that's going to bring you more money in.
Absolutely. Now, with this experience and this journey that you've been on, hindsight is also a great thing. So is there anything that you would do differently in your business, and why?
Do you know, I don't really like to think about regret or something that I would do differently, just because I feel there's a reason where I am at the moment. I literally believe that the universe has given me these opportunities at these precise times, because that's when I was consciously ready for it and asked her to give it to me.
Yes.
But I guess it would definitely be the fear thing, and it's something that I still have to work through. So, for example, that, as I was saying, like, move faster than the speed of disbelief, because every time I start thinking about something too much, then I won't do it, like so many of us. So I think that would be the thing that I would have done differently in the past, but something I'm still working on now, and something I will probably continue to do in the future. But I don't think there's anything I would do differently.
No, and they're all lessons, but I love that. Move faster than the speed of disbelief. Wow. That's packing a lot of punch in that one little sentence. There's so many of these I've been writing down, and I'm going to actually print off and put on a list as my little daily motivations. I love them. I love the nuggets that you're sharing with us today. Now, one of the other things you mentioned was being part of a group, whether that's, locally or in Melbourne, because to build our businesses again and to get the visibility, which is what this podcast is about, it's about getting our businesses visible and the ways in which we've personally experienced that. But what would you say has been really helpful, and, what's helped your business to become more visible, do you think?
I would say various things. I think being confident to talk about your business. So wherever, even if you're at a coffee shop, if someone asks you what do you do, have an elevation pitch, what your offering is, that's very clear to people, and just talk about it as much as possible, because actually when you talk about it to people, you never know who your message is going to connect with. They may know someone and be like, oh my goodness, I know someone who could actually do with your services. And I've had that so many times. I also did something, building your confidence to do that is so important. So one of the things that I did, again, one of my male friends made me do, I can't believe you. So we went, we met up in Sydney CBD, and he said, okay, Sophia, I've got a task for you to do. I want you to get your business cards and talk about your business, go up to randomers and just start talking about it and handing out your business cards. And I thought, I can't do this. I even said, look, I might be changing my messaging, I might be offering different things. And he goes, no, we're going to do it. So he literally was there by me as I was talking about periods, hormones, menstrual cycle, to strangers, to couples. But by the end of it, I was like, this is actually fine. And do you know what happened? Yeah. I handed my business card to this girl on this stall, and she said, she looked at it, she goes, I know someone who you could actually talk to, who would be great. And it was actually a woman who runs a fertility expo in Sydney.
Wow.
And since then, I've met up with her. She was obviously going to have an expo this winter, but because of COVID, that's not been able to happen. But instead, we did a podcast together. So that would not have been possible if I didn't get out of my comfort zone and did something. So what people would be like, insane.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's that one little thing that can lead to so many other things. And I've recently had this conversation with another small business owner about the slow burn versus the instant gratification, looking for that instant result when we put something out there into the world. I'm the type of person that I'm quite happy to plant the seed, and I'm quite happy for that seed to grow gradually. So with anything that I do it at 100 miles an hour. Don't get me wrong. I'm like either all in or I'm all out. There is no one leg in, one leg out, hokey pokey kind of thing happening. I'm like full in, and I go for it, like to the point of, not taking a breath. But I'm also okay with not seeing the end results instantly. So I am definitely that organic girl. And I actually giggle when I think about this, because, my area of speciality is SEO, which is the organic side of things, which means that you need to make changes, implement those changes. And as you said with your program, sustainable changes, for your presence to remain online. Once the paid ads and the campaigns, you press the off button, you need something else to back you up. But that does not happen overnight. So it is about that progress and that sustainable change that you're making. And so it's quite funny that even from a personality perspective, I'm the same way that I operate, my business and my services and what I do. And I'm sure that when you and I catch up, because I'm definitely interested in having more of a conversation about what it is that you do, because I can see within myself, I can identify that I'm at that point of being really disconnected from, my physical and mental presence. Like they're two totally disconnected things at the moment. But it's quite funny that, the organic side of it is definitely also my business side of it, but I see that as my person. And you're probably sitting there going, yes, Dawes, that's the way that it all actually connects and works. But I've never really sat down to think about it, to be honest, until having this conversation with you. So thank you so much. Like I'm just having all these little brain explosions, just from things that you've pointed out. And even though we've known each other for a little while, until we start to ask these questions and really get down into the nitty gritty, that's when you really discover more about the other person, which is why I love doing these, because I walk away feeling a lot closer as well, to that person, and understanding them better and what it is that their magic is and how they help people, which is awesome. Now, we did also touch on the naughty C word, which is COVID-19.
I was like, what word was that? I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, it always catches people. Yes, the naughty C word, which is COVID. Now, you mentioned that prior to COVID, coming into our lives and into the world, you were already doing a few things virtually. But do you feel that COVID itself has had an impact on your business, and has that impact helped or hindered you? And in what ways?
So directly, no. Actually, I feel like it's actually picked up.
Yep.
So if anything, I was more busy than ever.
Yes.
Which is great for me. But I think as well, do you know what I've seen as well? Before I was kind of all talking about this stuff, but then because COVID hit, actually people were forced to slow right down.
Yes.
Which is everything I've been talking about, being more in that feminine energy. So whether you're a man or a woman, we've had to really slow down and embrace our feminine energy and just be comfortable within ourselves. And so I always said as well, so obviously my business has really, really picked up, but I recognise that around me, around friends and colleagues, that COVID kind of worked in two ways. That, for example, so sorry.
It's okay.
So COVID kind of worked in two ways. So I think it's important that it allowed us to connect with ourselves. And a lot of the times we can see a lot of people finding it difficult, and that's where emotionally and even our mental health were really, really put to a test. And that's why I always say, like, we need to be putting these self-care practices in constantly so that we know who we are. Because if we've been so busy in this hustle and bustle, when we feel like we have nothing to do, it's kind of as if because we've forgotten who we are. So it's so important that we kind of go back and feel just really connected with ourselves. And it was kind of a time for us to remember our values as well. And it certainly was for me. So although I was really, really busy, I kind of was gotten away with being in the hustle and bustle outside of being social, because again, I'm very such a social person. I always away for the weekends. And again, it allowed me to remind myself what my values were and whether I had been aligned with them before. And I realized there were some areas in my life that I hadn't. So actually since COVID, one of the top things that I really missed was going to a yoga studio. Although I've been doing it online, for me it just isn't the same, because that was one of the things that helped to set myself up for success every morning. So I've had to be really careful about how my energies have been and making sure I do other self-care practices, because before, although I was working from home, I'd sometimes be going to cafes or I'd be going to co-working spaces. Whereas now I'm constantly at home. So it was reminding myself to go outside, because what I found that if I didn't, I'd actually be unproductive because I'd just end up like scrolling on my laptop thinking I need to be busy, but actually I wasn't being busy. I was just, doing time.
Yeah.
But I think, that's kind of the key takeaway, whether the key takeaway is actually me realigning my values in my business, in myself personally, and
Yes.
making sure that I continue with that. But I think the beauty of it is that I've built a business that is global.
Yes.
So although many other people had to pivot, I kind of already was there. So actually I just had to make sure that I was leveraging upon what I'd already built.
Yes. And maintaining that as well, which is really, really important. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for catching up with me today. I absolutely love this catch up. And again, I've had so many little brain explosions as you've been talking and going through. But if our audience would like to get in contact with Sophia, you can reach her a couple of different ways. So she is on Instagram at instagram.com/so tremendous, or Facebook at facebook.com/so tremendous. There's also a Facebook group, and I'll be popping a few links on the website page so people can learn how to get in touch and in contact with you if they do want to learn more. But again, such a great topic, and one that, we don't openly or necessarily openly talk about. So it's been great to really put it out there and express exactly what it is that you do. And yes, just again, thank you so much for your time. It's been a true eye-opener and lots of one-liners that I've written out. You can see my page and how much I've scribbled on here. So yeah, I'll be popping all of those references on the webpage when the podcast launches and goes live as well. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Sophia. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening today and making time to tune in. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave a review and some feedback. If you'd like to learn more about me or my services, you can find me at doreenbrown.com.au with links to social profiles so you can connect with me on there as well. Well, that's it from me today. So see you next time for the next installment of Let's Get Visible. You know, man.